Hi, welcome to Meet Your Nominee. I'm Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and I have with me today Finn Wittrock. Hi, Finn.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. You are nominated for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Limited Series for The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
How does it feel to be nominated?
It's a real honor and a wonderful surprise.
Yes.
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting it, and it came my way, and it was dropped from the heavens. Yeah.
American Crime Story has 18 nominations.
I know.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
So many of your other actors are nominated.
I know.
Are you excited
I feel like
for
half
the nominees?
my competition is from the show. It's like,
Yes,
I'll be so happy
absolutely.
whoever wins. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you excited for any of the other nominees for Emmy night?
Oh yeah. I mean, everyone. I mean, obviously for Darren Criss. I mean, I think seeing him kind of up close and personal, digging into that character was really a cool experience, and really he was so great to work with and play with, and he kept things very light off camera so that I think he could sort of go to the darkness on camera,
Yeah,
and
he had a
it's cool to be in that
technique. He had a
process.
technique where he had to go kind of switch out of that. I actually have heard from a lot of people that when they are doing the more darker, dramatic performances, they need to keep it light on set.
Yeah, because otherwise you kind of lose yourself, and also you don't want it to ever be morose, and you don't want to fall into playing the darkness, like as a habit. It should be because people don't naturally want to be sad or depressed or angry. They try to not be, and keep getting sucked down the vortex. Yeah.
You can get, if you're getting into your character, you can get sucked down the vortex.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. Especially with material like this, which was, heavy and real, and intense.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about working with Darren when you had your scenes together. Your scenes were intense. You had some more intense scenes than that, which we will get to.
Yeah.
But the scenes with Darren, like, how was it to, how was that exchange with him?
Every take was sort of different. It was very playful in a way of like, we don't quite know what it is. We're going to figure it out together. And I think he comes from music and theater, and I come from the theater, and I think that kind of loving the process of like finding it together was sort of mutually beneficial for us. Many days where I was covered in this crazy prosthetic makeup of him having bashed my head in with a hammer. I mean, that's a spoiler, but that happens.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I could only see out of one eye, and it was like this big rig that they put over me to be like, mangled, tortured flesh. And when they rolled me up in a rug, that was really me. I really they had a dummy, but they rarely used the dummy. They were like, Finn, don't worry, we're going to use the dummy. And then I was so good at being dead, that they just kept the cameras rolling, Yeah. They really rolled me up in that thing and dragged me behind the couch. So, he's also did that.
Let's talk a little bit about your character, Jeff Trail. When did you know that he was more than just a victim of a killing spree, that you were getting a role that was, pretty interesting and complicated? Yeah,
well, I mean, I think I read the first 4 scripts first, and I basically die at the very end of the 4th one. And I assumed that wasn't going to be the last thing I did. Since it's aired, friends have called me and been like, "That's it? I mean, you were filming that thing for so long, and you just like had a scene and then you died." I was like, "No, I promise there's more." That's what Ryan Murphy does very well. Is he kind of hooks you in, and then he's like, "Don't worry, I promise there's more." And then you're kind of like waiting on pins and needles for the next script. And then the next script like really did not disappoint. It really fleshed him out and opened him up, and I think the show just kind of worked in an interesting trajectory where kind of worked backwards, following Andrew and Versace as sort of the parallel lines, but then kind of went off into these different tree branches of different storylines. And Jeff's storyline, I think for Ryan Murphy, was a bit personal because it is sort of about a guy who was very patriotic. Like he believed in the American dream. He wanted to be in the military and like serve his country. And I think he was actually like kind of leaned a bit right in his belief system. You know, he just had this secret that he kind of couldn't tell anyone, and it kept eating him up. And he finally had to come out and reveal it, and he did. Like in the show, there's that reenactment of the CBS interview that he gives, where he's like in the blackness, you know, you can't see his face. That's almost verbatim what really happened, and he really did that. And it was a huge risk that he took coming out like that. Well, not coming out, but coming out and saying that "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" was wrong.
Right.
It was like always a lot of good stuff to chew on as an actor. And an interesting history to learn about, you know? I mean, we didn't know, sort of knew the bare bones of the Versace thing, like a guy killed him. People were like, was it the mafia, you know? And then Maureen Orth has this great novel about it, and that was sort of what the scripts were about, and we just learned a lot, yeah.
Why is it important that we see Jeff go through what he does in the military? Like, why is it important to see how gay men are mistreated in this series? It happens a lot. You see a lot of the different aspects of how gay men are mistreated.
His storyline's specifically interesting because I think there was a sort of underlying thing as the police were investigating, like, oh, this is a gay murder, you know? And not that they didn't work hard or like, but it was sort of like, you know, that was their excuse. It was like, well, it's a gay thing. They had whips and chains and someone died, you know, like. But when you have a guy who was in the Navy and was an upstanding citizen and could have been a cop, you know, could have been one of those guys, and he's gay and he's saying this is wrong, what's happening. He breaks the mold, I think, of what they thought homosexuality was in the 90s, you know. And it also shows that Andrew he had his hands in lots of different pies. Like, he was like such a social pariah. He was like into so many different worlds. Like Lee Miglin, this famous architect in Chicago, that was the third victim. And then there's also a random truck driver who's dead. Like, it's this crazy web of following his path that continues to kind of go in unexpected ways. Yeah.
Do you see any hopeful dialogue that can come out of American Crime Story? Have you gotten any positive feedback from people, or are people coming to you with their own stories?
What's funny, I was, when I first read the script, I will say, this was like probably a year ago. It was like last summer. And I remember reading it and being like, that "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" thing, isn't that a little bit dated? I mean, we're kind of past that. That was like a thought that went through my head. And then it was like a few weeks later, we found out about the transgender military ban, and it was like, whoa, this is not over, you know? Like, this is going to be really relevant because this is a story that is like inches away from what's happening right now, you know? So that made it very current for me. I have been approached by lots of like successful, but very successful gay men who lived through like this period and were closeted for a time in their life, and were, I think, really, really moved by that storyline. That it painted it in a fair way. I think like this sort of society not letting you be who you are, but also this sort of self-disgust and self-hate that went along with that. You know, at one point I'm like trying to end it all, you know, and then give that up, and like I think there was a kernel of truth in that people were seeing about their own lives, which has been very validating for sure.
So being part of the Ryan Murphy creative crew, what is that like? Are you enjoying your time as part of an ensemble cast?
The best family to be a part of. Yeah, Ryan, I think, is incredibly good at continuing to challenge you, you know. Well, the first thing I did with him, I was like dying of AIDS on a plane, and then he threw me this part of this crazy psychopath rich kid, and then he threw me this part of like a coke snorting model who was in love with the actress played by Lady Gaga. You know, like it's like as soon as you kind of think you've nailed one thing, he throws you something that stretches you in a whole different crazy way. And that's I think also what keeps great actors coming to him. You know, because he knows how to like work your muscles, you know, as it were, your acting muscles. And it's also a great. I mean, you find yourself on set with lots of people that you know, even lots of crew that you know and have worked with, because he's kept such a tight, cool family together. So yeah, I'm very thankful. Thanks, Ryan.
One last question before I let you go: is there anybody you'd like to dance with at the after parties at the Emmy?
Oh man, Penelope? Is that okay? I didn't really get to do much with her, you know. I think maybe Elizabeth Moss too. We could like get down, maybe. She's
That'd
cool.
Be great. That'd be great. I think you'll all have something to celebrate soon enough.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Finn.
Thank you.
The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story on FX.